Guys, my name is Ankush Gaurav and I welcome you to Gone to series. This part is in continuation with the earlier part where I completed writing code for a basic Spring MVC Web Application. Only part remaining was to explain those parts of the application which I wrote but did not explain much. And last but not the least, running the application on the Tomcat Apache server and testing it. So let's start. Let's say the client requests for a web page using this URL. Here, the servlet technology would map this URL request to something called as dispatcher servlet provided by Spring MVC framework. The dispatcher servlet, also called as front controller in Spring MVC framework, would read a file with the name spring dispatcher servlet.xml file and would further control the application based on what we have written over here. In simple words, once the control reaches here, the front controller's job is to prepare and send back response back to the client's browser. In the workflow diagram, I showed you that the front controller first needs to find out which controller class to be called with the help of handler mapping classes provided by Spring MVC framework. This is exactly what's happening over here. With the help of this handler mapping class, which is provided by Spring MVC framework, the front controller makes a decision to call the hello controller class, which we have written here in the project. So question is how it does it. The handler mapping class would match the incoming request URL pattern with the beans name of the controller classes, which you provide here in the Spring dispatcher servlet.xml file. And once it finds any beans name pattern is matching with the incoming request URL pattern, it just suggests the front controller to make a call to that controller class. And that's what has happened here. After knowing that incoming request URL pattern is exactly matching with this beans name, which is for hello controller class, the handler mapping class just suggests front controller to make a call to the hello controller class. There's one more important point I would want to tell you for the handler mapping classes. There are many handler mapping classes provided by Spring MVC framework. I'm here using the basic one, bname URL handler mapping class. Each handler mapping class analyzes and matches the incoming request URL pattern using different approaches. I'm going to talk much on all handler mapping classes, their purpose and usage in the subsequent tutorials. Alright, so once the control reaches here to the hello controller class, I'm here simply setting the data which is to be displayed on the client's browser in the response in the welcome message variable and the view name to the model and view object which is provided by Spring MVC framework, and in the end I'm just returning back this object to the front controller. The point to note over here is each controller class has to be extended from some base controller class. Here I'm extending this controller class from abstract controller class, which is a basic controller class provided by Spring MVC framework. There are many base controller classes provided by Spring MVC framework. You pick any one of those classes and override any of their required methods in the class. I'm going to tell more about the different base controller classes provided by Spring MVC framework, their purpose and usage for different requirements in the subsequent tutorials. Alright, so here I'm returning back the model and view object back to the front controller. In this workflow diagram, once the front controller receives the model and view object returned by the controller class, it will need to find out the exact location of the view present in the system using the view resolver classes which are provided by Spring MVC framework. And that's what is happening over here. This view resolver class will prepare the exact location of the view which is present in the project using the suffix and prefix values which you mention here using this mechanism or calculation. So based on this exact address provided by this viewResolver class, the front controller makes a call to the hello page.jsp file. There's one more point I would want to make here. There are many view resolver classes provided by Spring MVC. Here I'm using the basic one, that is internal resource view resolver class. Different view resolver classes serve different purpose and usage for different requirements. I'm going to talk more on all these in my subsequent tutorials. Alright? So once the control reaches to the hello page.jsp file, here I'm simply retrieving the value of welcome message variable which hello controller class has set here. And I'm mixing the value of welcome message variable along with the required HTML code which is to be sent back to the client's browser as a response. So once this file prepares the response, it sends it back to the front controller. And the front controller simply sends it back to the client's browser as a response. So this completes our basic Spring MVC web application. Let's run it on the Tomcat Apache server and test it. Right click, go to run as, run on server, choose this, click next, finish. So with this, our application is running successfully on the Tomcat Apache server. Let's test it on the browser. Paste this URL on your browser and click enter. So our web application has successfully sent back the response to the browser. In the next tutorial, we'll talk about how to develop this whole application using the concept of annotations. Guys, thank you for liking my tutorials. Please provide your feedback and comments below the video or simply write to me on this ID for all of your queries. Please hit the like button and do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel Contour series for more updates. And I'm going to catch you in my next tutorial.